Hello, I'm Matt Hertig, the co-founder and CEO of Alight Analytics. I want to thank you for taking time to join us for today's webinar. At Alight, we've been delivering marketing analytics services now for over a decade. ChannelMix, our data aggregation platform, in combination with Tableau, has been our recipe for delivering marketing analytics. I'm excited to share the story of one of our star clients. Jamil, an analyst at advertising agency Sullivan Higdon & Sync, will share his journey to building a superior analytics offering and how ChannelMix and Tableau have been instrumental in their success. In today's webinar, we'll talk about data silos, irresponsible KPIs, and the challenge we all face in delivering meaningful marketing analytics. We'll talk about the state of the dashboard tool ecosystem, as there are a ton of tools that have flooded the market, all trying to solve the challenge of marketing analytics. And finally, we'll talk about how you can go from 80% data gathering to 80% analysis and insights by using the right technology in combination with the right resources that enable a winning analytics strategy. Thanks again for being here. Let's get this webinar started. Hey everybody, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Matt Hertig. I'm with Alight Analytics and I'm the co-founder and CEO, and I'm joined here today with Jamil Malone from Sullivan Higdon & Sync. So welcome, Jamil.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. So today we're gathered really just to hear your story and your journey of analytics within the agency. So I just want to start with, tell us about the agency.
Definitely. So I work at Sullivan Higdon & Sync. We're a full-service ad agency, offices Wichita and Kansas City.
Awesome.
And about 140 people focusing on aerospace engineering, marketing to men, big brand startups, and one of our biggest is the food value chain.
Okay.
From farm to fork.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about your role.
I am the analyst at SHS currently.
The
analyst. I'm the one and only.
Yeah.
And actually started in that role about 4 years ago, developing analytics at the agency.
Okay.
And a lot of that came with developing what we used Microsoft Excel for.
Right. Tell me more about like when you started out. What was it like?
It was really tough, honestly, because I didn't know what to do. So it was a lot of let's look online.
Where do I start?
Yeah, where do I start? What am I supposed to do with all of these charts and graphs? And I know I'm supposed to make them, but I don't know what they're supposed to mean.
Right.
So it was definitely a lot of work in that aspect of figuring things out.
All right.
Which is part of the fun, especially coming from a research background. It was great to be able to dive in on a different side of research.
Got it.
And so I was able to especially start with the media side of things.
Okay. Yep.
And that's where we started, looking at paid media, earned media, owned media, website analytics, and figuring out how our work was actually performing.
So pretty simple, right? You know, just
Very simple.
Not a lot of data sources. It's really easy access. Really, it's all connected, right?
To an extent, yeah. I mean, Google Analytics was great. I became Google Analytics certified.
Okay,
because I thought that's an important thing to do.
Absolutely.
Looks great on that resume.
Yeah.
Agency loves it. So did that, so I had a better understanding of that, and then would be getting these spreadsheets from media vendors, and I just dumped them into a PowerPoint and would say, okay, here's a slide to showcase impressions.
Any questions?
Anyway, pretty much, that's how it worked. Our impressions went up.
Right.
Yay.
That's awesome.
Our website visits went up.
Is that good?
I think so.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was a step in the right direction.
Right.
And when we knew that we'd have to get somewhere.
Yeah. Makes total sense. So tell me, so back in the day, right, when you were living in Microsoft Excel and PowerPoint land, what was your process like? I mean, just kind of describe that for us.
So it was really as basic could be. I'd get all these Excel sheets and I'd look at them. As much as I didn't want to look at them in a silo, I looked at them in a silo. I was pulling, here's how Pandora was doing. And let's do 3 charts on how Pandora does, on clicks and impressions and so forth.
Yep.
And then let's do 3 charts on how direct mail was doing. And each slide was a different chart. There was no cohesiveness.
Right.
The cohesiveness was the 80 slide PowerPoint.
Right.
And that's about all we had.
And you hope that they don't ask you any questions.
True. Well, and it was nice to ask questions,
Right.
and especially at first, it was we'd always have a slide at the end that was the wrap up of, okay, this is how Pandora did. This is what we need to do in the future.
Right.
That was, I think, one of the big things that I wanted to also bring was it's not just here's reporting the data. It's what's the data mean?
What does it mean? Right.
And that's where we started going.
Awesome. That's awesome. So would you think, though, as you think back to that process, is probably the biggest challenge maybe that trying to just construct the cohesiveness of the data, trying to figure out how to get it all organized?
Exactly. There's only so much Excel's super powerful.
Right.
There's only so much you can do when you have 20 different Excel sheets.
Right. And one person.
And one person.
Right.
And PowerPoint.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just became difficult.
Just overwhelming. Yeah.
It was.
You know, when we started Alight back in 2007, we were going through the same exact thing, right? I call it the data death march, right? So we'd have all these sources, and we'd go and we'd get out our download mechanism, which was just us, and you start downloading all this stuff, and then you'd get out your best friend Excel, and you'd say, okay, what does this mean? And you try to pivot it together, and you try to create some charts, and then you'd ultimately put it into PowerPoint. The reason I was saying, you kind of hope for no questions is because that journey, oh man, it was just grueling, right? And so by the time you finally got the PowerPoint kicked out the door, you're sitting down with a client, it never failed that after all that work, maybe you're 2 slides in and they're like, so I have a question. And you're like, oh man.
Let me pull up all of these 20 different Excel slides, try to answer your question.
Yeah, totally. All right, cool. So, Jamil, tell me, and I know it's hard to go back, right? We try to forget those dark times of manual data collection and PowerPoint creation. And I'm sure PowerPoint probably still exists at some level within the agency, which is totally makes sense because it helps kind of frame up the story. But I'm sure there was a time where you're like, man, what did I get into? I know that I really want to answer these questions, and the data is overwhelming. I'm sure there was a time maybe you were like, what does a perfect world look like?
Exactly. There was a point where we were starting to get so many clients who wanted this, and I was just literally drowning in numbers and Excel files and PowerPoint presentations that I was dreaming of this perfect utopian world of data. And it really was, how can we get the data to come in easily so I can actually analyze it? Because so much of the time was, how do I take this data, make it look right, make it work together, make it think, so I can actually do the work of analyzing and coming up with actions.
Yeah, it's not funny. It's so interesting to hear you say that because, when we were growing up as an agency too, really, we grew up as like an agency. We found ourselves spending more than 80% of our time just doing the data gathering process, right? So that 80% only left us sometimes less than 20% to do this crazy thing called analysis. And even as an analytics company, which is our sole purpose is to tell the story, we were finding ourselves just drowning in the data death march and never getting to that world of, well, what is the story? We were literally just pumping out reports, and it sounds like
exactly
that's where you guys were. So what we discovered at Alight was we really had to separate these two problems. We found that if we could fix the data problem, we could really do anything on the reporting side, right? Did you kind of discover the same thing?
That's exactly where we were, because we knew we had a whole bunch of data coming in, and we needed to figure out how to work that together. And then we knew that we would be able to have better reporting if we had better data, but we also needed better tools to actually do reporting.
Makes total sense. So you have this perfect world. You have this utopian world that you're trying to get to, right? The data problems are solved. So what did you do? What was you're like, I'm going to take action. Where did you go?
So we reviewed, as every agency, every person does, we reviewed a bunch of different opportunities.
Yeah.
And we settled on one that was really focused on dashboarding, because we thought the idea is, at first, you want to make those pretty dashboards because that's what clients want.
That's right.
They don't care about the data.
Right,
they know you have to deal with the data if they know you have to deal with the data.
Yeah.
And they just want to see the output. So our focus was the output only. We knew we had another issue, but we can solve it with output at first. And we found a software that was supposedly great at making dashboards.
Okay.
You could connect data sources to it automatically. It would feed data sources in, supposedly, and and I'm using supposed and not so
I'm hearing
positive
some
words.
qualification
There
statements
are.
here. Yeah.
It took a lot more work than we thought.
Okay.
Because we really wanted something that could be turnkey.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be spending all this time, and I could actually produce work that was easy to understand and gave us better opportunities to do better work.
So I hear that a lot. And again, talking to people really all over the country, I think we look at a dashboarding solution and it's pretty and it's shiny and it's like, wow, that's what I want, and it seems so easy. So it sounds like you really found a tool potentially that was like, okay, this looks pretty. I'm going to start here, and then maybe I'll work my way backwards because it has maybe some connectors,
Yeah.
and it seems simple on the surface. Is that kind of fair?
Exactly. And we thought it would be easy to make these pretty dashboards that we saw online everywhere when you Google dashboard.
Right. Yeah.
And it's amazing how much work it actually takes to make something look pretty.
Yeah.
And I'm not an art director. I can't design things. Stick figures is about all you get.
Yeah. Hey man, I'm paint.
Paint is good.
Yeah.
But it's not where we want it to be, and it took so much time to make something look pretty, and it took so much time to get data in there correctly and looking right, that it was taking actually more time. It was easier to do something in Excel and PowerPoint than on this software.
Yeah, which then you find yourself thinking, I bought this thing, I was trying to get out of this world, and now it feels like I'm back in it, but I'm having to do things like learn how to code, understand how APIs work, and when things break, and how to troubleshoot them. Where before, at least I controlled it because it was a download, and I could learn how to do a pivot table or something, right?
Exactly.
So it sounds like it became even more complicated in a lot of ways.
True.
Yeah.
And that's where we started saying, okay, there's got to be another option.
Got to be another option. Yeah, for us, we did the same thing. So way back in 2008, we found it was a little company at the time called Tableau, and so we've grown up with Tableau since 2008, and it's what I call a pure play data visualization, visual analytics tool, and that's what it does. And I believe today that it does it better than anybody else. And the challenge with those pure play tools, though, is they really don't have a back end behind them, right?
Correct.
And so with marketing, I think we could both agree that marketing is probably uniquely challenged more than any other industry because of all of the data sets that we have to deal with that aren't connected.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we go on this march of how do I collect it and how do I pull it in and do all these things. And it sounds like you were thinking, hopefully at the time, I bought some software and these magical data fairy connectors, right, would take care of everything for you.
Exactly. I have 15 different sources, and I just want it all to go to one place.
Right.
That's all I want.
Right. Yeah. Well, so I think, so if you look at the industry today and you really see where the industry has grown, right? So again, we discovered Tableau in 2008. There's been a progression, I would say, of tools that have occurred really over the last 10 years. You have the basic dashboarding tools that are very limited in their connectors, and I call those the TV lobby dashboards. Don't tell anybody, but that's really all they're good for, right? It's big shiny numbers, and they move things, and it's not analytics for sure. We have a growing segment called what I call the advanced dashboard segment, where there is a back end behind it, and they do have a robust set of connectors. Sounds like you were probably in this space a little bit. The challenge is that we're exchanging time from manually collecting to figuring out how to maintain all of these connections, and really an environment I'm not equipped to manage, right? I always say we don't want our developers managing our media campaigns, so why do we ask media and marketing and analysts like you spend time figuring out how to code? Well, I'm just swapping time, right? And we have, in the ecosystem too, I call I call them data blending tools. And so really their job is just to blend different data sets together. But again, the concept is that the data is already there for me to blend. And that's ultimately why we as a company had to build ChannelMix, right, as a data platform, that data engine to solve that first part of the problem, which is the data problem. I get the sense that you were using what I would classify as an advanced dashboard type solution that has these built-in connectors and a pretty dashboard combination. Help me understand some of the more specific challenges, though, that you were having, because I think that software tries to tell a story that makes it seem so easy, right? That everything, and I used the term magic data fairy earlier, right? So I just open up the box and these magic data fairies appear and all my data problems go away. It sounds like you had some similar experiences. So I'd just love to go a little bit more into that.
Yeah, we were looking for something that would handle the data problem but look pretty. And being in advertising, we like pretty things first before we worry about how we're going to get there.
Right.
And the pretty things led the way. And so we were seeing these tools, these software opportunities that would really create gorgeous dashboards for us.
Yeah.
Or so we were told that they would be really easy to create gorgeous dashboards.
Right.
And in addition to that, they'd also include ways to connect your data.
Okay.
Which is great when you're connecting one data source or two data sources.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's any advertising agency around that only has one or two data sources.
Or really any marketer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And heaven forbid there's actually some bad data inside those data sources, which is the other thing that I found, right?
Oh yeah, because what we would have to end up doing is clean and make sure our Excel document that we'd upload or our Facebook connector was absolutely perfect. So I'm still spending 80% of my time to make my data right.
Right. Yeah.
And then I'm spending 80% of my time to make a dashboard actually look pretty when I could probably spend only 20% in PowerPoint making it look pretty.
Right. Oh, man. Yeah. I remember those days.
And I think the other aspect that was really difficult was trying to connect data sources
Oh,
because I
that's a
wanted to
great
get
point.
to the aspect of it's not just looking at Facebook, it's not just looking at paid media, it's looking
Right.
at the whole ecosystem. And we were told it would be easy to join or connect
Or
these-
blend or whatever, I'm sure.
whatever term was being used by all these different sources we were looking at.
Right.
And it wasn't once you got past two.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's ultimately the challenge, right? I mean, data is messy.
Yeah.
The ecosystem that we work in, they all use different terms, and you really have to step back and say, I have a data problem, right? So if I focus on solving the data problem and forget about my dashboard for a minute, if I really focus my energy there, right, I could flip this equation of 80% spent on managing my data with only 20% left to tell the story. Well, what if I were able to flip that equation? And for us, that was really our perfect world. And it sounds like
Exactly.
you can share that. You can
Yes,
share
that's
that.
that utopian moment when
Right.
you can have all of your time going to actually analyzing and creating actionable insights
Right.
and making changes instead of all the time going to trying to make all of column A look the same.
Yes, totally agree. So it sounds like you were experiencing a lot of the challenges that we were. I think one of the challenges that I really felt was I have this tool, I don't even know how to use it yet, right? So where did you go? What was your support process look like? And how did that actually manifest itself with you in your experience?
Well, as I said earlier, I'm the only one in the entire agency who
Right.
knows what I do. So I don't have anyone to bounce a whole lot of things off of. I have some people I bounce ideas off of, but when it comes to actual software,
Yeah.
it's me. And I was hoping that I could have a software that would be either easy or I could have quick and easy access to a support person.
Got it.
And I didn't always have that with the tool that I was currently working with. And it just became a lot more difficult to get things done because this real easy way of blending data sources and building dashboards wasn't turning out as easy, even though they gave me an hour tutorial and they had some tutorials online.
Sure.
It wasn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. And I wasn't able to get support to respond to my questions as quickly as needed. And when you have client deadlines, clients don't like budging on those deadlines.
No, you can't really say, hey, client, I haven't got an answer to my support request yet.
Correct. And I'll be honest, it wasn't Tableau at first. It was another software.
Yeah.
And that software wasn't as popular, so there's not as much help online. I can't just Google and get a
Yeah.
response. I really have to go through them.
And I think the other challenge, though, too, is we have technical problems,
Yep.
right? I can't figure out this data or whatever. But I also think because of our industry, the context of the problem that you're trying to solve, you know what I mean? It's like, well, I need to convert a TRP into an impression. What does that calculation look like? Well, I don't know. Or, what does a simple click-through rate calculation mean? And what's the best way to write it? I think contextual knowledge of our industry, though, was
100% of an issue, especially when I'm trying to figure these things out, and it's probably easier, I'm learning, to just do those equations on my own.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of help in knowing my industry to be able to have those answers for my industry. It was just general knowledge.
Makes total sense. So it sounds like, we went from Excel craziness to I have this dream of a perfect world to buying some software that I discovered that magic data fairies don't exist to what was left. Like, so you're kind of left holding the bag here. So tell me about some of the things that you really thought you were going to be able to get to, but you just couldn't. Maybe there were client answers or agency expectations around the strategy of analytics.
Well, I mean, part of the agency expectation was you're going to get clients to buy off on dashboards. So that they can then see the data. We have an easier way because this is this magic data fairy tool.
Right.
And everything's going to be perfect.
Everything's going to be perfect.
Utopian world. But that wasn't the case. We weren't having clients buy off on it as well because it was hard to sell it.
Yeah.
Because it was hard to build it.
Yeah.
So we weren't getting to that portion. And then internally we weren't quite sure what answers we should be solving for the clients. That doesn't make any sense of where I want to go.
Right. What do yeah, exactly. You're left still having all these questions, right?
We have all of these questions, and our clients are asking us questions that we're not quite sure how to answer in a tool like this. We can easily answer it in Excel maybe, but to be able to answer some of these questions that are a little more difficult,
right,
and visualize those answers, we were losing it.
Yeah, I often use the phrase reporting tells you what happened and analytics tells you what to do.
Exactly.
And I think I've had the opportunity to use all these tools, much like you have experienced this particular tool set. And I think ultimately it may tell a prettier dashboard story, but it doesn't really, it's not analytics.
There's no so what to it.
There's no so what to it, right? So you kind of still are left hanging with, okay, well that tells me what happens maybe in a prettier way, but what do I do?
Yeah. I was recreating PowerPoints in a dashboard.
Right.
And there was no way of me actually showcasing, and it was taking me more time to recreate PowerPoints in a dashboard, and I wasn't able to answer so what. The
so what questions.
Why are we doing this specific tactic?
Makes total sense.
And is that tactic driving my sales?
Got it. Well, Jamil, thanks for sharing where you've been and your journey, through analytics and trying to get this analytics strategy started with any agency. I totally understand it's not easy, and part of the challenge is not only the tool set, but it's really just figuring out strategically how to really grow this within the practice of the agency overall. So I'm curious, and I'm sure everybody listening in is curious as to so what did you do? What was your next step? Where did you go?
Well, we had one client was sold off on a dashboard.
Okay.
We had one, great, and it was one of our smallest clients.
Oh man.
Which is not how you pay for dashboards and not how you pay for a position.
Right.
And we were struggling, and I went back to my boss and I said, we can't do this anymore. We have to find another opportunity. And he said, well, I got this email from some guy at Light Analytics, and I said, I had just talked to them a year ago. And he says, maybe we should look at them and let's do our due diligence and look at the entire ecosystem and compare with what we're doing now.
Right.
And we did that. And we learned that there was more than just pretty dashboards.
Yeah.
And there's a whole lot more.
There's a whole lot more that goes into it.
It is, completely.
Yeah.
And we started having that conversation, which led us to where we are now.
So what were some of the things that ultimately were like, okay, Alight Analytics, they have a platform, ChannelMix, that seems to make a lot of sense. What were some of those things for you?
I think the first thing that really pushed us at that point, where a year ago we might not have been as ready because we weren't as knowledgeable, was we have a data problem.
Okay.
We have a huge data problem because we're getting more and more data from our clients now, more and more sources, So we need to look at this on a data first side, and then what is that pretty addition that we have with the dashboard.
Got it.
And ChannelMix knows that data comes first, and you have to have that firm foundation of data to make a pretty dashboard.
And so tell us about your ChannelMix experience, right? So you make the decision that we're going to solve the data problem.
Yep.
We're going to use the ChannelMix platform. What happened?
Once we signed on, we had a in-house 8-hour session, which I was a little nervous about because 8 hours is a long
time to talk data.
It is. And it was probably, I learned more in those 8 hours than I did in my entire year before.
Wow. That's great.
Because you all understand data.
Yeah.
And that's the first problem. And so it was through looking at data strategy, looking at how we need to organize our data better, and then looking at the dashboarding tool through Tableau. That was really, and having a little bit of Tableau training there because I've never touched it before.
Yep.
And so I was supposed to build dashboards using this brand new tool, and I was a little afraid.
Right.
After my 8-hour session, I was no longer afraid because I felt like I could actually do something.
So your solution today, we have ChannelMix as the data engine underneath, and we jettisoned that other piece of software.
It's gone.
We brought in Tableau, and so Tableau and ChannelMix are your basically your analytics platform today. Is that
100%.
Yeah?
With a little bit of PowerPoint and Excel
Yeah.
when needed for clients, because
Okay.
all clients like a PowerPoint
It's
presentation.
good that you're being
every once in a
honest.
while.
Right?
I am,
We
yeah.
have to still use some of those things.
We do. It's much easier now because we still build
Absolutely.
everything in Tableau utilizing the data from ChannelMix.
Right.
So it's organized, it's clean, it's much quicker, and then it's a copy and a paste of a chart instead of having to rebuild stuff and make it work.
Got it. So I'm going to make you go back to the past for just a second, right? And so whether it be a client calling you on the phone or maybe somebody within the agency stopping by and saying, hey, I got this question. Before I can imagine it was probably like, oh, look at the time, I'm suddenly busy, because maybe that question would lead to an all-nighter, right?
Yeah.
Tell me how, obviously with the data inside ChannelMix, but Tableau allows you to get to those questions really, really quickly.
It does. So we are an open office environment. So it's not really stopping by an office. It is yelling across the office, hey, Jamil, answer this question real quick because the client wants to know 30 minutes ago.
Right.
And before it used to be, okay, pull up my 20 spreadsheets, try and find some correlation.
Yeah.
Now it's pull up my dashboard in Tableau.
Yeah.
And if the answer's not already there, it's hold on, give me 5 minutes to drag and drop some things. Let me take a couple minutes to create an idea and answer a question for you.
Right.
And it's much easier now because all the data's there, it's clean, it's ready, and Tableau allows us to be able to quickly analyze that data.
And oftentimes what I found in that exercise of trying to answer maybe a specific question, you might be able to find 2 or 3 more nuggets just in the simple fact of I'm using Tableau as an analytics tool, which is totally different than the software space that you came from, which was
100%.
just pretty reporting. By using Tableau as my visualization engine, I'm not only able to answer maybe a specific question, but three or four more answers may pop up while I'm doing that.
I think that's the fun thing we've been able to do with Tableau is you have one question, you want to know how sales are affected by this specific channel.
Right.
Okay, that's great. We jump in, we create that quick thing, but then with the ease of it, we're able to circle through a whole bunch of others.
Right. So, we launched Marketing Analytics Academy, and it's an integral part of really our program. And so tell me about your experience with Marketing Analytics Academy.
We've done 6 academies right now, and we've done both some that you all suggested, a couple of those, but I think the better aspect that we had was we had real problems. And
Specific problems.
Specific real problems that we were working with. We couldn't figure out how to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And I kept sending the support team, okay, here's this running ticket of I can't get this, I can't get this, I can't get this. And after about a couple weeks of I can'ts, you guys came to us and said, okay, here's a Marketing Analytics Academy session. And we actually worked on the issues I was having and we solved them. And in addition to that, some of the other ones we've done, it's been here's how to make your data work better. Here's how
best
to,
practices. Sort
completely.
Of things.
Here's how to make things look prettier.
Yeah.
Just those nuts and bolts best practices, which has really been helpful.
Well, that's great to hear because the one of the core fundamental strategies that we preach is we call it the 4 Ps of marketing analytics. So you have to have a platform,
Yep.
right? And so ChannelMix and Tableau are those tools that we believe is the best in class combination. You have Tableau that is the leader in visual analytics, and you have ChannelMix, which is an enterprise class data engine built over 10 years of being a company of trying to solve this data problem. But we as a company found that wasn't enough. You have to have the other 3 Ps. So I have a platform, but I also have to have the right people, right? That know how to do stuff.
Completely.
I have to have the right process, right, in order to maintain this data ecosystem and build dashboards in a scalable way. But I also have to have a plan, which is why we make you suffer through that 8-hour data strategy session. But it's about building a foundation on your data. So if you get your data right, that allows us to then build it, expand it, scale it, and it flips that equation. And that's always been our hope, and we've seen that here as a company, and it sounds like you're starting to experience some of those things.
I worry about data 20% of the time, and I actually get to analyze 80% of the time.
Wow, that's crazy talk.
Analytics is a part of the entire agency. It's a part of every step of the way. We have that idea of where are we going to get to in the end. So analytics starts at the beginning, and it starts at the middle, and it's at the end.
Yeah.
It's always
The whole continuum.
It is.
That's really
and it
great
makes
to
us
hear.
smarter. So we're smarter and do better work. And it makes our clients smarter. So they have a competitive advantage also.
Yeah, so the concept of being a data-driven agency is a term that I've heard really over the years, but it's really great to hear that you guys are living that,
Exactly.
and you're really purpose-driven about making analytics as a part of your core competency.
Yeah, and it's not just a checkbox.
Yeah.
We're not. I mean, I feel like a lot of times clients want analytics because it's that buzzword.
Right.
Big data, analytics. It's buzzwords right
Yeah.
now, but it's not a checkbox to us. It's actually it's blood running through our veins. It is truly part of our entire process.
That's
now.
great to hear. Really great to hear. So, Jamil, we were talking about that single source of truth now that we have, and different people within the agency, different areas, were able to access that same data,
Exactly.
tell their stories. You were allowed to go off and do this crazy thing called analysis. And I know Tableau is your visualization tool that you're using, and we're big believers in Tableau, of course. So
100%.
so tell me about how you're using Tableau within the agency.
Well, it's great. So a few of us have desktop versions of Tableau,
Okay.
and we are the ones who actually build the dashboards. We're pulling in the data from ChannelMix, building these gorgeous dashboards.
Yep.
Okay, semi-gorgeous. We're still learning, and thanks to you all, we're learning a lot
That's
quicker.
why Marketing Analytics Academy is here.
So helpful.
Right, yeah.
And then from that, we're publishing it online through Tableau Online.
Okay.
And what that then allows us is for some of our brand managers to actually access that data and look at it, and then our clients to log in. We actually had a client recently that said, can we change, instead of giving you the data monthly, can we give it to you weekly so we can log in and actually see our sales data change?
Yeah.
I know. I mean, because they know you get your Facebook stuff every day, your
Right.
Google Analytics every day, and you're waiting every month for us to give us sales. How about we give it to you weekly? And we're like, yes,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I found that to be very powerful too. In our use of Tableau over the years, right? We have obviously a lot of different Tableau desktop licenses within our company. We've used Tableau Server for many years, all using it in the same fashion as you. So it's great to see that combination has been really powerful for you as a way to not only access that data, but a way to disseminate and tell those stories, in an online environment.
Exactly.
So as a longtime user of Tableau, one of the things that I figured out is when I connected it to ChannelMix and I have this analysis-ready data, it really allowed me to unleash really what Tableau does so well. I'd love to hear more about, as well as I'm sure everybody would, what your experience has been.
It's exactly what we've experienced. We've been able to take this data and easily and quickly get results. We were able to visualize things so that we can quickly analyze. Being an analyst, you're supposed to know everything at all times, which that's great on the outside, but takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And with the ease of Tableau and the visualization of Tableau, I mean, dragging and dropping could never be easier to make charts and graphs, and it really allows us to have those answers at our fingertips.
That's great. So you're an army of one, but you're growing. It sounds like you're having a lot of client success, and you're able to now expand and really jumpstart the strategy. It sounds like. Tell us about that.
We are slowly expanding. We started with one client, and we also realized that it's not always easy to just say, "Hey, we have a dashboard."
Yeah.
You actually have to build it and they will come. It is true. You build it, they will come.
Right.
We built it with them and they have loved it and are looking at expanding it to other opportunities within that client and now expanding it to other clients.
That's fabulous. That's really great to hear. Because I think that the other fundamental thing you're experiencing is momentum.
Completely.
Right? Once you get momentum and you begin to understand the complexities within the data set, and you have a platform to be able to account for those complexities, you can not only focus on doing analysis, but I think the goal of Marketing Analytics Academy as well is to enhance your craft, really to make you a better analyst. And so as you bring new team members in, you have experience and skill set to be able to help them.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I think the other cool thing we're at now is I build these dashboards. I have this plan of how we're going to take the data in, and I have media people asking before they put together a campaign, is this the right naming structure?
Oh, I love it.
I have brand managers now who are asking for access to the online dashboard so they can go ahead and pull some stats for decks that they're working at, or if a client calls and has a question, they can answer those questions because they know how to use it now. And I have people who are like, give me a license to Tableau so I can start building things.
Which, that's kind of that utopian world, right? So let's go back to the perfect world. I think what you're describing is now we have this single source, right? We have this single source of truth that I'm building dashboards on, and now I can spend time as an analyst because the data is automatically updating in these dashboards. I have other people within the agency that can access them whenever they want, pull their stats, tell their story, while you continue to create new stories, do deeper analysis, and really, find those nuggets that really clients are starving for.
It's interesting. We got some client data, and we were able to, data that the client has had for years. They get the same type of data. We put it in a dashboard for them, just the client data, not blending with anything else, and showed it to them, and they had no idea.
No idea.
They were blown away by the information and the insights that we gained from that because they were still living in Excel.
Right.
And so we were able to bring to our client answers that they had all along, they just didn't know how to find it.
It sounds like you got great momentum, right? So you're getting ready to conquer some new worlds. That's just that's super exciting. I'm really, as a guy who's been part of this company since it started, it's stories like this that we get super jazzed about. So congratulations on making such great progress.
Thank you. I mean, we couldn't have been where we are now if it hadn't been for this partnership and being able to actually showcase our information to our clients. We had the knowledge before, but didn't have a way of really showcasing it. Yeah,
well, that's great. Well, again, thank you for sharing your story. I think everybody on the webinar today, I'm sure they enjoyed it. And so on behalf of everyone here at Allied Analytics, I want to thank Jamil for coming on and sharing the story, and thank you everybody for joining us today in our webinar.